Hey, welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. We're glad you're tuning into this episode. We are a viewer and listener supported podcast, so we really appreciate you listening, watching on YouTube. We really encourage you to subscribe to whatever platform you're using. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, or if you're on Apple or however you listen to a podcast, be sure and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. Also, make comments if you like it and share it if you like it. We really need people to make comments and share the episodes that you like. And then also, if you're not already a supporter, we really would encourage you to go to spiritualityadventures.com and you can pick a tier, and we have bonus content for every type of giver. This is a nonprofit, so they're tax-deductible donations, but we do provide bonus content for those who are supporters. So be a part of the team, help support Spirituality Adventures, and we're so glad you're tuning into this episode. All right. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning into this episode of Spirituality Adventures. I am honored to have Carl Boyd on with me today. Carl, I'm gonna just read a little bit about Carl. And Carl, thank you so much for being on Spirituality Adventures.
Thank you for allowing me. I appreciate it. Believe me.
For those, we met through our Shepherds Helping Shepherds group that we do on Fridays at noon. That's been a group that's been going almost 7 years. And so that's where that's where I first connected with you.
Yeah.
But here's a few things about you, Carl. Carl is a seasoned media professional renowned for creating and hosting the Generation Rap, and we're going to talk about that later, a groundbreaking talk radio show for teens that aired from 1987 to 1999. The show became a vital platform for young voices, fostering meaningful conversations on issues important to youth. In recognition of his contributions to education and media, Carl was inducted into the Mid-America Education Hall of Fame in 1990 and received the NAACP Lucille Bluford Lifetime Achievement Award in Kansas City. In 2011, Carl rejoined the consulting team for the Sanctuary Workshop, empowering and inspiring the next generation through innovative programs. In 2015, he launched the Passing the Baton TV concept, featuring Kansas City icons and celebrating the city's rich culture. In 2018, Carl joined the board of directors for Crime Stoppers USA, Kansas City chapter, promoting community safety and supporting crime prevention efforts. In 2019, he became the youth counselor and staff mentor with Synergy Services, providing support to homeless youth and helping them navigate challenges. In 2020, Carl received the Distinguished Educator Award from the U.S. Tiger Foundation, recognizing his commitment to education and youth advocacy. In 2021, he completed a calendar book entitled 366 Messages for Students and Veterans, offering daily inspiration and encouragement. In 2023, Carl was honored with the National Association of Black Veterans Humanitarian Award, celebrating his dedication to service and advocacy. Most recently, in 2024, he was cited by the Concerned Clergy of Kansas City as Distinguished Elder, accompanying his impactful leadership and contributions to the community. Carl is also a lifetime member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity and the Alliance of Black School Educators, NABSE, reflecting his commitment to leadership and education within the community. Also, I found out, Carl, that I heard this in our group together, you started working early in Chicago organizing and with Jesse Jackson. You were also a singer in an R&B group that performed for our troops in Vietnam. And you're an author. One of your books, Plain Teaching, that came out in 1991, is still a textbook that's used in education circles around the country today. Wow. Thank you, Carl, for being on the podcast. And I don't usually do that, but I was just like going, oh my gosh.
Well, thank you.
It's an incredible lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your service. So tell us where you were born, where you grew up, and how you started getting involved in organizing initially and then education?
Um, I have been a Kansas Citian since 1980. I was 38 years old. I was born uh, in 1942 on the south side of Chicago. So my first 38 years before arriving here were in Chicago, and I lived in the Ida B. Wells housing projects until I was 13 years old. And when I was 13, we moved into a community that was I almost said predominantly white community. It was an exclusively white community. So before we moved into the house, it was bombed, but not when our family lived there, but the white family who were selling to a black family um, experienced that being bombed at the house into which we moved. So we had 24-hour police protection. In that year, 1955, I was to be the first black student enrolled at a particular white high school, but I was stoned and bottled and sticked and
Stoned not by weed, but by rocks.
thank you by rocks. And I always talk about bottles thrown. This was Pepsi before plastic when they did that. Interestingly enough, on that particular day, when I ran home to the house that had 24-hour police protection, my brother was home, and he had that year been discharged from the United States Marine Corps, where he fought in Korea. So when I came home after being attacked, he decided that we needed to go back and confront my attackers. And our intent was to engage some fighting with about 60 fellas at that high school. We were embarrassed to have to run home. He didn't want me to be subjected to what they were doing to us. So I ended up going to Lindblom High School on the southwest side of Chicago, which was a predominantly white school. So we did have some confrontations even there. I was blessed that by the time I graduated from that high school, I was the class soloist when we graduated and was the captain of the precision drill team in ROTC. And it turned out to be all right, except that it wasn't a glorious high school career. It did turn out to be okay. I went to Chicago Teachers College after going to Wilson Junior College. And again, we were visiting the fact that I am not a PhD. And I am very pleased when I let it be known that I went to Chicago Teachers College for 4 years, $20 a semester. Should I repeat that?
Mm.
$20, not a semester hour, $20 a semester at Chicago Teachers College South in Chicago, Illinois, where there was no tuition. There was simply an admission fee of $20, and we could take as many hours as we needed. So in 1964, I started teaching on the south side of Chicago, seventh and eighth grade science.
Hmm.
And at the time, as a matter of fact, our singing group was formed when we all attended Chicago Teachers College. So while we were teaching, we were also singing, and that's how we went with USO shows um, to the various places I mentioned earlier.
Mention those
Uh,
again because you some of the folks listening now won't hear that. But um, you while you were a teacher in the South Side, and were you in a predominantly black or white or what was the racial makeup of the school that you taught in? And
when
then
I was,
yeah, and then go into
uh,
your singing stuff. I think that's an intriguing part that you perform for the troops. Yeah.
thank you. When I taught at Douglas Elementary School, I had student taught there while I was at Chicago Teachers College, and the principal invited me to come to teach where I had student taught. So that was predominantly, almost exclusively black school on 32nd Street. It happened that my first year of teaching, I lived on 67th Street. And as you do the math, 30 blocks from where I was teaching. But my second year of teaching, I moved to the street on which I was teaching so that I was living on 32nd Street as I taught on 32nd Street in a predominantly black school and community. When our singing group did our USO shows in 1970 and 71, we took a leave to travel. And when returning, had invitations to teach at different schools. But I insisted that I be allowed to go back into my community to teach. So I did that. And that's where we became active in our communities to improve what we confronted.
And is this when you started um, your organizing career? Is that
Yes, as a matter of fact, wow, I had a gentleman, Robert D. Brazil, and he was Dr. Robert D. Brazil, who was my principal and was interested in my interactions with youth gang members. Except that when they interacted with me, I would not allow them to call themselves by the gang, but I had them doing some athletic things with me and just being involved in the community. In 1974, I wrote a program called Motivation for Excellence, and that was to engage students in the community to become involved in improving themselves in different ways. And that's when a gentleman introduced me to Reverend Jesse Jackson, who made my Motivation for Excellence program become Push for Excellence, an education program in the education division of Operation Push with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And that expanded.
hmm. I can remember that went nationwide.
Yes, it became Push Excel.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Huh.
And there were um, there were leaders of that movement who were much more involved than I at a much higher level. So I was blessed to have been in on the beginning of that.
Get for those of us who probably aren't as tuned into this to the work that you were doing there in the South Side of Chicago with Jesse Jackson. I mean, this ended up. Isn't this even eventually Obama got connected to this at some point in that work in the South Side? Is that correct?
Yes, now this is interesting because I can actually boast and say that Barack Obama is my godbrother,
Wow.
but I have to curb my boast because he and I never met.
Okay.
But the reason I can claim that is because there was a very special female leader with Operation Push. As a matter of fact, she was Reverend Jesse Jackson's vice president. Her name was Reverend Willie Chaplain Barrow, Barrow. And when she was working with Reverend Jackson, a couple of years after I wrote something called Motivation for Excellence, she called me and asked when I was going to return to become involved with the education division because they were going to do Push for Excellence. And I said, Reverend Barrow, I don't know anything about the program. And she laughed at me and she said, you're the only one who does. You wrote it. So that was my Motivation for Excellence, became Push for Excellence. But my relationship with her was such a good relationship that she referred to me as a godson. As I said, in 1980, I moved to Kansas City, Missouri. By the time Barack Obama was a candidate in Chicago, I was living here in Kansas City. But just as she had adopted me as a godson, when he came on the horizon, she adopted him as well.
Oh, interesting.
So if someone went to Barack Obama and talked about his godbrother Carl Boyd, he wouldn't have any idea who you were talking about. So I have to be careful with that boast.
Uh, Give us a sense of in those early days when you were organizing, what were your main objectives? I mean, we some of the civil rights legislation had been passed, but in our what were your main objectives? And obviously, your big passion became education, but in the broader sense, what like if you had to say what were your main focuses, education included? What were some of the other things that you were really trying to focus in on in the organizing you were doing this in the 70s before you came to Kansas City?
Interestingly enough, as a matter of fact, when you say 70s, actually 60s and
60s and 70s.
70s.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that is important to many of us on my March 3rd was my 84th birthday. So being an octogenarian, had the opportunity to experience some history. One of the things that you will hear from those of us who participated was we were blessed to have clarity. Now, what I mean by that is if you look at the movement in that time and you look at our appeal to President John Kennedy, we were around when he was assassinated. So it was very clear as it relates to what that meant, not only to politics, but to the movement. It was clear in 1965 that a voting rights bill was signed by a Southern president who had the audacity at one point to even utter the words, we shall overcome. So there was clarity about voting rights. When I mentioned to you as it relates to being involved in the community, housing was very important as it relates to the acceptance or the refusal to accept Black and other minorities moving into white communities. And one reason I can tell you what could happen is because my family experienced it. So I had the opportunity to speak to how we must be cautious about where we lived, how we moved about. So housing was clarity. We were talking about school desegregation, 1954, where Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education passed, and the next year, 1955, heard leadership utter the words with all deliberate speed. It is now 2026, and we are still engaged in education and the absolute necessity for our young people to learn the truth, not only of our history, but the truth of our relations. As a matter of fact, one of the papers that I wrote in 1978 for Reverend Jackson was titled In Search of Quality Education at Home, a Black Position in Favor of Neighborhood Schools. And I wanted our Operation Push Thrust to have us emphasize quality education in the neighborhoods where our young people lived rather than pursuing quality education, which was an admission that schools were better somewhere else. I was not in favor of that, and I still have a strong need, a strong prejudice for schools within the poorer communities to be excellent schools. When I talk about clarity, no one will forget 1955 when the house I lived in was bombed and I was chased away from the school. I did not attend to another school. Will remember that 1955 was the same year that in Mississippi Emmett Till was killed. Those who will remember 1955 will remember December 1st, 1955 was when Rosa Parks refused to yield her seat on a bus. When I talk about, quote, the movement, what I am suggesting is that if somebody says to us, what were we fighting about? It would not take long to say public housing, voting rights, equal educational opportunities, economics, and politics. So my blessing was to have been around where I could learn from such leadership as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and many of us who were, as a matter of fact, slower to adopt the movement as it was, were followers of Malcolm X, whose famous quote was, by any means necessary. And so it was that we were in on the initiation of confrontation, but also benefiting from education.
Mm. Hit those housing, education, voting, and you mentioned two other.
I was saying that, economics.
Economics and
Yes,
politics.
yes.
Yeah. What's crazy, Carl, I mean, you've spent a
No,
lifetime, advocating for these things, and here we are sitting in 2026, and there's a sense in which we feel like we're going backwards right now.
without a doubt, clearly, as a matter of fact.
So I'm here in Kansas City, here I am trying to work with More Squared, and then we're starting a new group in the Northland that's connected to, is it IAF? It's one of the national organizers. It started in the 40s for union workers.
Mhm.
But it's real similar to Gamaliel, which is what More Squared is organized under. But and as we look at we're looking at some of the same issues. I mean, in a different era. I don't even know how to say it. But
Well,
go ahead. I'm curious of your perspective on, all the
so
work that you've done, and then like where we're at right now. It's just like, oh my gosh.
I can offer one simple observation with which many people can identify, but most particularly with which educators, and by the way, in some context, there would be the expectation for me to say Black educators, but no, educators are now revisiting a need to study and understand our history. And the fact that there are actually people in positions of leadership making a concerted effort to remove from the history books the factual interactions ethnically that occurred those many years ago and are being placed in front of us today. As an educator,
Mm.
to hear someone suggest that one of the reasons that they have to alter how we look at civil rights history has to do with embarrassing a certain population, so let us not visit these truths. Now, I would have thought in 1957 that by 2026 we would have been not only more enlightened than that, but we would have been more a part of each other's honest learning. But if you are suggesting to me that somehow you are reluctant or even afraid to tell the truth of our history, then we have a long way to go before we initiate what we need to learn when we won't admit to what we should have learned by now.
Yeah, it'd be like your whole life work in racial equality and with education and in recognizing all the inequalities that you experience. I mean, you were stoned and hit with bottles for being a black kid going to a white school, and yet all of your work to try to create racial equality, it'd be like if I then took that as a personal offense, like you're trying to embarrass me as a white man by you're. It's like nullifying your entire life work because I'm a white guy and I don't want to feel bad about it or something like that. I mean, the psychology of it is so strange to me. Like I'm sitting here thinking, I'm just honored to be able to interview you, and your life work is so inspirational to me. That's how I feel about it, and I want to join in today and help create the common good that you've been working for your whole life as we continue to try to do that. But there's a whole nother psychology going on out there. It seems to me like it's just a reemergence of a white supremacy is what it feels like to me.
Well, let me tell you It is a blessing for me to have a sober conversation with a white individual who does not dwell upon the confrontation of race to the extent that you take no steps towards remedy. Two things. I'll mention one today, just by your saying more square.
Mm,
Now, when you look at that and we talk about, quote, the civil rights movement, unquote, someone is visiting Kansas City, Missouri, who has not been here before, and they hear of Moore Square, and Moore Square is not yelling to the housetops, and look at us. We're not black, but we're into the cause. But when you are presenting it in a simple, sober, but passionate way, that is not only helpful, but I often say children learn more by example than they do by instruction. And we see the interaction being as consistent for as long as it has and continues to go. This is the kind of movement we longed for in the 60s and 70s. And then, number two, a name, Reverend Bob Hill.
mm,
When I think about my relationship with someone who has been kind enough to me to invite me to be a part of what might be referred to as a movement, but I like to refer to as a sober interaction, that gives me hope. And there needs to be this kind of education for young people who understand that even as dire as things are in this particular time period, time frame, yet it is not time to give up, but always time to step up.
mm, mm, mm.
And that's what is happening in this company I find us in. And I would not have met you had it not been for the invitation from Reverend Bob Hill
Mm.
and the acceptance. I am a layman and I'm allowed to be in on that Friday call, but not just to learn, but even to offer.
Mm.
That is an honor.
Yes. Well, I'm blessed. Bob's been such a huge blessing in my life.
Yes.
So grateful for him, and he's like a walking encyclopedia of all things civil rights. And
That is absolutely right.
he's spent his lifetime studying black preachers, and oh man, like he's a wealth of such a great. Yeah, I'm so grateful for Bob. Well, what brought you to Kansas City in 1980? After yeah, what brought you here? And then let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about the Generation Rap thing that you
Yeah.
did here in Kansas City, and some of your work that's gone on here in Kansas City.
It's wow. I had to chuckle a little bit because this was a a different departure from Chicago than one would have expected had they met me in Kansas City in 1978. 1978, the Push, Operation Push convention was held at the Mulebach Hotel, Kansas City, Missouri. This was in 1978. I lived in Chicago. I was the director of Chicago Push for Excellence, or the Push Excel program. A gentleman who was then principal at Central High School, Will MacArthur, was the director of the Kansas City Push for Excellence or Push Excel program. There was a gentleman whose name is Carl Sewell, who was here from California. He was the director of the California Push for Excellence program.
Hmm.
So in 1978, I met through Reverend Jesse Jackson, those leaders, Reverend Wallace Hartsfield,
Mhm.
Reverend A.L. Johnson,
Mhm.
Reverend Nelson Fuzzy Thompson, um, leaders like Elbert Anderson and Mary Groves Bland and Phil Curls and all of these people in 1978. At that time, had no idea that I would actually relocate from Chicago to Kansas City within 2 years. But when I left the Push for Excellence program in 1979, I was exploring some options in entertainment as well as education, making up my mind as to the direction I would be going. I asked a gentleman whose name is Herman Roberts, who was the owner of Roberts Motel chain, if I might have a room at one of his motels and just clean up, be a houseman. And he told me that he needed me to be the manager of one of his motels. That became something of an adventure. And during those years, I determined that I would probably go back into education. And I had a cousin who taught at Schlegel High School. And I thought that she would help me become a substitute teacher for a year or so, and then I would go back to Chicago. So in 1980, I came here to sub for a minute and go home. But in 1980, I met um, Wanda, and this is 2026. And after meeting her, I'm still working on that year to determine what I'm going to do with my life. But we've been together. It will be 39 years, July 18th. So it looks like I'm going to stick around a while.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you, what was? Tell us about Generation Rap. What was that about?
Interestingly enough, Kansas City, Missouri had a community access television station, Channel 50. And most people do not know that the Generation Rap was a television program before it was a radio program. The gifted and talented program at Lincoln College Preparatory Academy produced my interview show on that community access channel. And I called it the Generation Rap.
Is this the
I wanted to do,
Lincoln
yes,
College from Jeff City?
no,
Oh,
Lincoln College Preparatory Academy High School,
here in Okay, yeah, the high school here in Kansas City. Yeah,
Lincoln High
Lincoln.
School.
Yeah.
And those students were my producers for that community TV program. I asked Prim Carter from KPRS FM if I could do a talk program on education. So actually, what I started with was concerning learning on KPRS. And she and Freddie Bell asked if I could do something with teenagers. And since I had done this on community access TV, it was natural for me to call it the generation rap and see if I could engage youngsters to offer their own opinions and to be a part of a conversation on Saturday mornings on KPRS FM. And December 12th, 1987, Harelda Scales, a 14-year-old, was the first caller on Generation Rap, and it actually grew from there.
Mm.
Now, Generation Rap every Saturday morning was a program that I hosted, but I was a long, long way away from being, quote, the star of the show, unquote. People were not getting up at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning to hear from Carl Boyd. They were actually impressed with what the young people had to say. So from 1987 until 1999, when Wanda and I moved to Arizona, I was the host
Mm.
of the Generation Rap. What does not get enough publicity, as I look at it from my perspective, is when we went to Arizona, the Generation Rap continued. A young man whose name is Sean Edwards was at the helm for a while,
Mm.
but the program became something totally different and exciting through Jim Grandad Nunley, who was Generation Rap. And I often say to people that I offered to give the young people a voice. Jim Nunley actually gave them a show.
Mm.
So the Generation Rap did not stop when we moved to Arizona. And I don't recall the number of years, but for a number of years, Generation Rap was hosted by Jim Nunley and the young participants.
Was Sean Edward is that the tell me about that name?
Yeah, you have it right. He is indeed the film critic.
Yeah, the film critic, Sean Edwards.
That's him.
And he jumped, was he here from, did he grow up here in Kansas City? And
Yes.
okay.
Yes, he's a Kansas Cityan.
And he got connected to Generation Rap as a young man.
Well, yes, absolutely.
Huh.
Absolutely. When we left.
Fascinating. I'll be dang. Well, that's interesting because he's syndicated nationwide now as a film critic.
Oh, absolutely. He
Yeah.
is one sharp, sharp young man. And his mother is an educator. So we were both educators. And Sean and his sister were teenagers at the time. So I can boast that I've known him since he was a teen.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's very cool. And the rap didn't necessarily refer to rap music. It was more about a conversation. Is that correct? Or were you incorporating some of the movement that was happening in the rap hip hop world?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, that name originated while I was still living in Chicago. So the play on words was not the generation gap. In other words, the separation between the generations, but the generation rap, a conversation between different generations.
Yeah.
So it had everything to do with generation conversation, referred to as rap.
So, yeah, that's so cool. So, as you continued your work in education, I mean, like I'm looking here in like 1997, you were a keynote speaker for a China U.S. conference on education in Beijing. you've received lifetime achievements award. What if you had to sum up what you feel like your contribution was to education in the work that you've done? What do you see as some of your primary goals, objectives, and contributions in the world of education?
The primary offering that I have had has been motivation. And what I mean by that is, and there's a gentleman who became a friend. His name is Les Brown. Les and I were both motivational speakers. And if you look at this quote, you will find his name by it. I thought that I made it up myself, but at any rate, I did a tour of all the three states in the United States working with teachers under the title No One Rises to Low Expectations.
Mm.
And the gentleman even wrote a book with that title and attributed me in the book. But the point was this: when I moved to Arizona, it was the National School Conference Institute, an organization of educational leaders who did an at-risk conference every year. When they allowed me to keynote speak, they offered on 4 occasions to hire me in Arizona to develop this motivational program. And the reason was because they called their program Challenging Students at Risk. I worked in Black schools for my career, and I was not particularly fond of the term at risk. Looking at young people I was privileged to teach and educators with whom I was privileged to work with. And in Chicago, Illinois, District 149, Calumet, and Dalton, Illinois school districts, I asked if they would, August 12th to August 15th, 1998, give me a word that identified those students, but let it not be at risk. And they came up with learners with untapped potential. And in Arizona, they actually renamed the conference Challenging Learners with Untapped Potential.
Mm.
Challenging Learners with Untapped Potential. So if I were to look at any contribution I might have made, it has been primarily motivational for young people whose talent not only was untapped, but disregarded.
Mm.
And I would say to you, and you would answer it the way that most would, what is at risk? So you would have someone say, a girl in school is at risk when she becomes pregnant. A boy is at risk when he becomes a part of a youth gang. Students are at risk if they live in poverty-ridden homes. Young people are at risk if they do not have the requisite materials to study at home, especially when computers were a part of that. So I am saying that if we're going to designate young people at risk, we've already taken the first step towards denying their excellence. But if, as Calumet Dalton School District 149, again, August 12th through 15th, 1998, would say no, their potential has just not been tapped. I had the opportunity to travel the United States with that as my mantra.
Hmm. I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
Tell me about Mayor Virginia, and I'm not sure how to say her name,
Dupuy.
Dupuy of Waco, Texas. I graduated from Baylor in 1983 in Waco,
No,
Texas.
get out of
So this
here.
caught my attention. Proclaimed October 4th in Waco, Texas, Carl Boyd Day. How
Um,
is that accurate?
yes.
How did that
Uh,
happen?
Let me tell you, I was invited to speak to students in Killeen, Texas.
I know Colleen. Yeah,
You know Fort Hood.
yeah, Fort Hood. Yeah, I've been in Fort Hood. Yep.
Fort Hood is one of the largest of the bases military.
Mm-hmm.
And when I spoke to the students at Fort Hood, my message to them was do not allow your parents to be deployed and come home to your being less than excellent.
Mm.
So when I launched this movement, quote, as it were, American students striving for excellence in honor of our troops,
Mm.
it kind of caught on this idea of we owe troops our best as educators, as students, as citizens of the United States of America. It is absolutely imperative that our young people are doing the best that they can. Do not allow someone to be deployed and actually sacrifice, in some cases, life, and you are not doing what you should be doing. You mentioned my book of messages, one for every day of the year. But one message is simply you cannot look in a hero's eyes and be a student who never tries. When I did that in Killeen, Levita Brown, who was part of the Black Chamber of Commerce in Waco, invited me to come to Waco. And after I spoke there and left, Mayor Virginia Dupuy invited me back, but it was through Levita Brown and the Black Chamber of Commerce
Mm.
that they were doing something special on this particular morning. And to my disbelief, they declared October 4th, 2007, Carl Boyd Day.
Mm.
And I was pretty amazed at that. But they have allowed me to come back and forth to places in Texas uh, because of that thrust.
Mm.
And I called it the Fifth Front campaign. And forgive me for talking so much, making this so lengthy. But when I was doing this in honor of troops campaign, the reason I called it the Fifth Front is because Bob Woodward wrote a book called Bush at War. And in it,
I've read
he
it.
quoted President Bush as having said, we're fighting this war. This is the war on terror
Mm.
on many fronts. And he said the financial front, um, the financial front, the diplomatic front, and two others. But at any rate, I said that the fifth front that had not been mentioned. What is that? Financial, intellectual, diplomatic, and the S, I'll think of it. But at any rate, the fifth front is the education front. So that was my idea, and that's where that tour came from. So I was blessed to be able to speak in all but three of the United States on that issue.
That's awesome. I love that. Wow,
Thank
there's
you.
so many things. We're kind of running out of time here, but
Okay.
let's um I'm there's so many things I haven't gotten to. Okay, so let's do this. You your work in Kansas City. Oh man, I don't know how to wrap this up. Let's do this on February 14th. Was it 2024? Chiefs were celebrating a Super Bowl victory, right?
Wow.
And Lisa Lopez Galvin was shot at our Super Bowl party down at Union Station. And I noticed that you end up writing your thoughts that kind of turned into a poem
Yes.
for the common good of KC. I
Yes.
I I'd like you to maybe because you used a tragedy to springboard hope out of tragedy. Is that a would you be comfortable with that description?
Yes.
And talk about that. I think that's a good way for us to wrap this up because I thought I read that poem and
Oh, you did read it.
yeah,
Okay.
I've got it right here. It's um, I don't know. I don't know if you have. Do you have it memorized?
Not memorized, but I have it.
But the essence of it, I thought, kind of captured the kind. I mean, your whole life has been. I mean, you've seen a lot of tragedy, right, and a lot of
Mm.
oppression and racism and all these kinds of things, and yet you're one of the most inspiring, hopeful people I've been around, Carl. And it seems like there's something in you that has this passion to transform tragedy into hope.
Because on an ongoing basis, God has allowed me to meet people like you.
Ah, well,
And it's rather lengthy. I didn't know whether you wanted me to end with reading it.
I would love for you to if you wanted to.
Uh,
Give us,
and
yeah,
and if you need to close us out after that, I will understand. But
would
it's
be perfect.
uh,
Yes.
okay. I'll do it quickly, but not disrespectfully. I do want the words to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
From the Super Bowl to one super soul is what I called it. From the Super Bowl to one super soul, our nation united by grief. Even championship dreams of classic teams awakened as one for relief. From the Super Bowl to one super soul, not playing but praying together. When tragedy struck, the whole league stepped up, determined to make our world better. Our celebration became devastation, an innocent victim deceased. But the more we heard discouraging words, the more our unity increased. Remember the name Lisa Lopez Galvin, who lived to make all of us smile. The least we can do is take a step or two for us. Lisa's smile walked miles. There were families attending, no thoughts of impending life threatening or life taking danger. But the insanity of violence vanity gave way to unnecessary anger. This wonderful event worldwide was not meant to focus on mental health problems, but for an all wise God, it would not be odd to use now and use us to solve them. From the Super Bowl to that super soul, helping those of us who yet live to share the real truth with vulnerable youth. Now, is that too much to give? My real truth is I need them, though I know I don't feed them all the love and support that I should. By myself, I can't fix me, but joining 360 unites all of our common good. So, coaches and players, we share your prayers as you seek unified peace, along with celebrities beyond festivities, all working to make violence cease. We applaud you more offstage for turning the page from the bowl or the gold in your hands to what's in your hearts, not playing parts, but sincerely doing all that you can. My personal stand: remove guns from the hands and the heads of immature users. Let us invest in our children's success while they're young and know they're not losers. And let's not forget those serving and vets, dangerous places performing great feats. We can't let them come home in groups or alone to even more dangerous streets. From the Super Bowl to one super soul, one way that we teach children peace is to show sports opponents in after game moments shaking hands after one team's defeat. Thank you, KC Chiefs. A celebration too brief for your exemplary, inclusive imprint, molding the majestic multicultural mosaic that could make America magnificent, that could, if we could, if we would, make America's nonviolence magnificent. From the Super Bowl to one super soul that would and should be us together. Thank God.
Mm, I love that.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. So let's. That's a beautiful way to close, I think.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank
Mm.
you. Thank you. I'm blessed and honored to have connected with you at this time in our journeys, and I'll look forward to seeing you again this Friday, hopefully.
Well, let me say this real quick since we're on. What I would always do at the end of Generation Rap: Gracious God and wonderful Wanda, I'm on my way home.
Thank you, Carl. Blessings to
Thank you.
you. Thank you for all the work that you've done in this world and for the good that you have inspired others to do. And your ripple effects will be wonderful and beautiful. And I'm a part of being inspired by your story. So thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who tuned into this episode and listened. And you can, Carl, if you still got book, if somebody wanted to connect, how would they get a hold of you? Or like your book is still out on Amazon, I noticed, First Principles. And
I'm sorry,
yeah, do you have a website or anything like?
my email address:
Okay.
academic patriotism at gmail.com.
Academicpatriotism@gmail.com. All
Yes, sir.
right. And First Principles still in print. You've got 3, 4, 5 other books. Are they still out there in libraries?
Yes, but I mean, they wouldn't just pop up. You might have to search
Yeah.
those, but maybe just under my name.
Carl R. Boyd, and there are more than one, so make sure you get the right. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Take care. See you next time. Hey, you made it to the end. Thanks for listening all the way through on this episode. By the way, if you're not already a supporter, go to spiritualityadventures.com, sign up for one of our monthly supports, and you will receive our bonus content. You'll receive lots of interesting information about our guests. Many of our musicians will do special bonus songs and record a song. So I want to encourage you to do that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe. Be sure and share any of the episodes that you like. And be sure and make comments if you like them as well. This helps us get Spirituality Adventures out there to more listeners, more watchers. So whatever platform you're using, subscribe, like, share, make comments, and go to our website, sign up for our team, and be a part of the team support. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.